All right, this is an amazing story we're about ready to tell you. Our next guest makes his debut on our show, Mason Madsen from Boston College, and he now joins us from, I believe, beautiful Chestnut Hill, fresh off the final exams. Mason, first of all, it's great having you on the show. I know there's folks up in Boston understand your story, but there may be a lot of folks in our ACC footprint that don't know what you have physically gone through to get into a position to do something you love to do, and that's play basketball. But man alive, you have been through it all, haven't you?
Yeah, man. I mean, the pain started for me kind of out of nowhere my sophomore year of college, so about 2 years ago. And since then, it's just kind of been a constant trying to figure out what the problem is. And I've had different diagnoses. I dealt with a torn labrum in my hip, which I had surgery on in April after last season. And I figured that would just kind of fix the problem that I've been dealing with, and started up practice this past September, really kind of rejuvenated and ready to go, and just felt more pain kind of through my pubic bone region, and it all ended up kind of right time, right place, and there was a doctor who had seen this kind of autoimmune disease before and had recommended that I get tested, but if it weren't for him, I think I would still be searching for answers. So Dr. Cormier here at BC, our team doc, is lots of credit to him for helping me figure out what's going on.
All right, so what do you physically go through just to be able to play?
Yeah, I mean, it's changed over time. I mean, I was actually just reminiscing on this kind of recently, but last season was lots of different. I mean, I would spend 2 to 3 hours in the training room every day, heat, stretching, kind of manual therapy, trying to get ready to go. And then since then, I've learned that Humira, an injection, it's an injection therapy that'll help relieve pain, and actually has already started to help. And so I started my first dose earlier this month, and that'll be every 2 weeks for kind of the rest of my life, or at least for as long as I play basketball, for sure. And so that honestly provided me a lot of relief, and was a quick fix, but it's been a really long process to get here, and I'm happy I'm here right now.
Which is really cool. Now you're averaging career highs in almost every category. So obviously those two definitely go hand in hand. You're playing almost pain-free at this point. I know you wanted to share the story you see at the bottom of our screen. The story ran in the Boston Globe. Why is this an important thing for you to talk about and get your story out there?
I think that for me, it's been really hard to know who and what I could be as a player and not quite reach that, especially the past 2 years. I think that I would have forever kind of lived with like a what if my best year of college basketball was my freshman year, which up to this point it had been. And so, and not that I need everybody's sympathy, but I think when people understand that like there's a lot of stuff off the court that they don't realize, and like I've just put so much time into kind of my game and everything that's led me to this point, and it's been really frustrating not figuring out kind of where the pain's coming from, and to be able to perform at the level that I know I'm capable of. And so I think for me it's peace of mind now at this point, and obviously there's just injection therapy too that can help me. But yeah, I think that just it gives people perspective, and obviously I'm not the only person dealing with this, and I think that's what I've realized kind of even, like I'm in the early stages right now, but it feels like every couple days I learn of someone else who has dealt with an autoimmune disease too. And so if my story can help people figure out where their pain's coming from, or even if someone needs a person to talk to, I just know that I'm here.
Mason, you are a twin. So what is that relationship like, given everything that you have physically been through?
Yeah, I mean, we had originally committed to play college basketball together at Cincinnati, and there's a lot that went down there, and we never got to play a game together. So I said this in an interview the other day, but I think that it's that old adage where absence makes the heart grow fonder, and obviously I would love to be with my twin brother every day, but I think just the fact that we are apart, I think it makes us realize how important we are to each other. And I talk to him almost every day on FaceTime, and so he's been just kind of a rock through everything. Obviously, he knows probably better than anyone else in the world what I've been through, and so obviously just really supportive all the time, and he's having a good season himself too, so I'm happy for him.
You mentioned you and your brother starting at Cincinnati, obviously transferring, going different ways after that. You chose Boston College. What was it about Boston College and Earl Grant and this team that struck you, that you wanted to be a part of it?
Honestly, I would have never known that it was going to be Boston College before it happened. Like, I had no pre-existing ties to anyone on staff, really. And that was another kind of right time, right place, where they just happened to be watching a game that I had played at Cincinnati. And Coach Goins was checking in on one of his former players, and just I happened to play well that game. And so from there, we just developed a relationship. I think Coach Grant is like everything I could have imagined. I mean, I just value honesty so much, and I think that he's just one of those people where what you see is what you get. And for me, like I can't undervalue or overstate how important that is to me, especially with everything that I've been through. And I realize that you're not always going to get that in college basketball, and so just having someone who's the same person every day, who brings the energy, and honestly is a great coach, but an even better person. And I think that for me, like that, at the end of the day, that's why I chose Boston College.
Mitch, I don't know if you believe in destiny or anything, but it does seem like you're at the right place at the right time, given everything you've been through, and now all of a sudden, as Taylor said, you're playing your best basketball.
That's what it feels like, man. And honestly, I don't, like I haven't up to this point, but this kind of whole experience has led me to, that's really the best word for it. I think that destiny, like if I weren't here right now, and obviously there were so many times last year where you kind of have like periods where you're like, oh, did I make the right decision? Just because of how hard it was. And obviously pain had a lot to do with that. And obviously I didn't shoot the ball as well as I wished I would have. But just for everything to come together kind of in the recent weeks, it really feels like everything I've been through has kind of led me to this moment. And I couldn't be more grateful to everybody who's had a hand in it.
You really could feel the momentum starting to build with this team last season. Then we talked to Coach at Media Day, and you could feel it then. And you're starting to see on the court now, too, that translating not just for yourself, but for this entire team, the pieces starting to come together. What specifically about this team, you've been on them your whole life, do you like that could translate to being, I don't know, a winning team this season, maybe making a run in the ACC?
Something I was thinking about on the walk over here, actually. I think that you can't simulate like kind of going through the fire, and for me, I think you either have a chip or you don't. And I think we have a lot of guys who have a chip on their shoulder, and I think that just comes from kind of being overlooked and undervalued. And I think that is one of those unspoken kind of intangible things that you can't really touch or see, but it's there. And so that's one thing I think that is a reason that we'll find success this year, and we've had early success. And then obviously continuity too. Like we've been together, we really like each other, and every team that I've been on that's any good I think that's a recipe for success for sure.
Mason, at an early age, your family moved to China. Chinese proverbs. You're bound to have a couple of these that you live by. What would you pass on to the ACC audience as a Chinese proverb that we could all probably relate to and maybe be able to incorporate in some shape, way, or form?
I'm not going to tell the whole one this one's really true for kind of this past year or two, but it's just the idea that whatever happens, like it's not inherently good or bad, and it just is what it is. And I think for me, like that's been a journey for me to kind of come to that realization. But I think the sooner someone can come to the realization that everything just kind of is what it is, and it just leads to the next thing, and one thing leads to one thing leads to another. I think that you'll be more at peace with yourself, and I've found that to be true for myself, especially with my past diagnosis.
So living in the now is what you're basically saying. That, hey, you know what? You can't worry about tomorrow. What happened yesterday is old news. You got to take care of what's right in front of you.
100%, man.
Yeah, makes sense.
Something I found out about you is when I was, searching your name, I found your channel on YouTube. You're a vlogger, and you've been doing it, I guess, since the international trip and then into this season, kind of documenting your life as a basketball player, your life outside of basketball, everything you're going through. And they're really cool episodes. How did you get into this? And we talked a little bit about it, but you're also the sole editor of this thing. It's your enterprise completely.
I think that for me, I just always really enjoyed watching kind of day in the lives and vlogs when I was little, and they were less common then, and I think they're more common now. You see, I don't know all the people that are doing it, but I've seen kind of other athletes doing the same thing, and I just honestly, I did it because it's something that I really enjoyed watching, and so I think that if I can provide value to anyone in that sense, and I think that also for me, like, I want to be able to look back, and these are some of the best, like everyone I talk to will always kind of look back at their college years and say, like, those were some of the best years that I remember. And so for me to be able to digitally record these and upload them and hopefully watch it for years to come, I think that I maybe will appreciate it more in the future than I do now, but I think that it's something that I really enjoy. Obviously, like you said, it's hard to edit with school especially, but I found a good way to kind of balance the two.
Mr. Do-It-All, and you see at the bottom of your screen the shameless plug to go subscribe to Mason's YouTube channel so we can get your subscribers numbers up. Hey, you're a self-proclaimed mountain man. I didn't name you that. You said it on Instagram. You've grown out the beard. You've grown out the hair. You've always had a little bit of a beard, but it's longer than ever. The hair too. What's the story behind this?
It's funny, when I was trying to think of what questions you were going to ask, I knew this one was going to come up, and I honestly don't really have a great answer. I think my brother, like if you look at my brother and my dad, they both look kind of similar to me, and I was always missing kind of the long hair on top. I've always had the beard. I will say that I grow my beard because my brother can't, and so I just kind of grow it in spite of that. But no, I think that like I'll feel more at home when I go home to Minnesota. I'll just say that.
Well, you know, I keep thinking about Bill Walton and his glory days in the Boston Celtics. Man, it's kind of like a throwback, right? You put an old Walton Celtic jersey on walking through town, man. They'll think, oh man, he's back in town. I mean, you never know. Listen,
Coach Grant gave me that comparison earlier this year, and actually Bill Walton just did one of my brother's games the other day, so. They got a picture together. Maybe I'll have to get a picture with Bill Walton at some point coming up here.
There you go. You got it. Well, listen, your story is very inspirational, and it's great that, number one, you're feeling great. It sounds like you got everything going for you. Stay healthy. I think your team's dangerous, too, by the way. And we look forward to seeing BC throughout the course of the year. But, again, happy holidays and all that great stuff.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.